All right, it's Monday, January 26th, and wow, there's a huge shift happening in AI right now. If you've been thinking about AI in terms of just abstract code and chatbots, you need to recalibrate. Today, it's all about the physical stuff, hardware, power grids, and really the new global politics of who controls the computer. And this quote right here, it just nails it. We've moved way beyond talking about the next software update. We're now in an era where AI's real power, well, it's measured in things you can touch. We're talking silicon, kilowatts of energy, and who has strategic control over it all. This is a massive physical turning point for the whole industry. So yeah, AI is getting real. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means that success in AI isn't just about who has the smartest algorithm anymore. Nope, it's about who has the physical stuff, the tangible resources. And believe me, the race to lock those down is getting seriously intense. Okay, this slide really breaks it down. Think about it. Just yesterday, it felt like the whole game was about scaling laws. Just throw more data, more compute, more everything at the problem. Brute force, basically. But today, that strategy is, well, it's obsolete. The game has totally changed. Now it's all about efficiency laws. We're talking cognitive density, making models smarter, not just bigger, and building sustainable infrastructure that won't, bankrupt companies or crash the entire power grid. And this new reality, it has kicked off an absolutely fierce global race. It's like a two-front war for AI dominance. On one side, you have the battle for silicon, the raw processing power, and on the other, the fight for kilowatts, the pure energy you need to make all that silicon actually do something. So let's look at the players. First up, the UK. They've just dropped a huge announcement about their Dawn supercomputer over at Cambridge. We're talking a sixfold power increase. This is so much more than just a simple upgrade. What they're doing is building a nationalized AI powerhouse from the ground up. And they're putting their money where their mouth is. The UK government is pumping £36 million into this. That is a massive signal, right? It tells you that high-performance computing is now being treated as critical national infrastructure. We're talking on the same level as the water supply or the power grid. So why does this matter so much? Here's the deal. By building their very own National Computational Resource, the UK is essentially creating a fortress for its intellectual property. All of their most important research, think about things like personalized cancer vaccines or next-gen climate models, it all stays secure, at home, and totally independent from the whims of a few global tech giants.
But here's the catch. All that amazing silicon is just a very expensive paperweight without a ton of power. And that brings us to Singapore. See, while the UK is all in on compute chips, Singapore is tackling the other, arguably harder side of the equation, the looming energy crisis. They've just launched something called the FutureGrid Accelerator. It's basically a testbed for a whole new way to power data centers using what's called high voltage direct current, or HVDC.
And just look at the payoff on this chart. It's huge. This HVDC system can deliver up to 30% in energy savings. Plus, it slashes carbon emissions. As these AI models get hungrier and hungrier for power, this kind of efficiency isn't a nice-to-have anymore. It's an absolute necessity. Honestly, this could become the new global standard for how we power AI. Now, this race for control, it's not just happening between countries. Oh no, the world's biggest companies are getting in on the action, building their own private, heavily fortified AI systems. Think of them as corporate fortresses. And this chart tells you exactly why they're doing it. What's the number one thing stopping big companies from going all in on AI? It's not the cost. It's not even the complexity. It's security. A whopping 58% of organizations are basically stuck in neutral because they are terrified of the risks of shipping their sensitive data off to some public cloud. And that fear has given birth to this whole new strategy called sovereign AI. It's a simple but powerful idea. For a lot of businesses now, the need to control their own data, to control their own destiny, is way more important than the convenience of just plugging into a big third-party cloud service. And right on cue, Fujitsu has just launched a new platform that tackles this problem head-on. What it does is let companies run these incredibly powerful AI models completely on their own servers, on-premise, with this built-in trust layer that's constantly scanning for threats. It's basically a secure, private AI starter kit for a very cautious corporate world. Okay, so we've got nations and companies building walls to keep their AI in. But maybe the most mind-bending shift we're seeing today is AI breaking out
I mean, literally leaving the data center and entering our physical world. And folks, this is where things get really, really interesting. Over in Hong Kong, a huge partnership was just announced between Asia Info and the robotics giant ABB. They are launching what they're calling an embodied intelligence laboratory, and its whole purpose is to bake AI directly into the next generation of industrial robots. So how on earth do these new robots even work? Well, they run on something called Vision Language Action Models, or VLAs for short. It's actually pretty intuitive when you break it down. They use vision to see and perceive the world around them. They use language to understand what we're telling them to do. And then they use action to physically execute the task. This is the magic ingredient, you guys. This is what turns a robot from a dumb, pre-programmed machine into a genuinely intelligent agent. All right, to make all this physical AI a reality, you need two things: a whole lot of capital and some seriously advanced code. So let's pivot and look at the money and the models that are fueling this entire revolution. This is where the capital markets and the coding labs collide. And the venture capital? It is just flooding into this space. I mean, look at this table. You've got huge funding rounds for companies like Nubility, who are working on robotics, and RideFlux, who are in autonomous trucking. Even that insane $12 billion valuation for Open Evidence. That's all about applying AI to the very physical world of medicine. The gold rush is on, and the prize is AI that can actually do things in the real world. But building this future is eye-wateringly expensive. Get this. New reports are saying OpenAI is staring down the barrel of a $130 billion infrastructure bill. That is just a staggering number, and it's forcing them to scramble for new hardware partners because the cost of training these giant models is, and I'm quoting them here, hilariously impossible to keep up. You know, that kind of financial pressure, it just fuels the competition. In the labs, the model wars are heating up. We're hearing leaks that OpenAI's next model, which has the codename Garlic for some reason, is going to have a massive context window and something called perfect recall. But at the same time, Google's Gemini 3 just smashed a new record. It hit an Elo score of 1501. And yeah, that's the same kind of rating system they use in chess to rank players. And it's got this new deep think mode designed for really tough scientific problems. And here's the most important takeaway from all this back and forth. The new battleground? It's not about who has the most parameters anymore. That's old news. It's now all about cognitive density. The race has completely shifted. It's no longer about building the biggest model. It's about building the smartest, most efficient one. Which, it all boils down to one final huge question. As AI truly becomes the basic infrastructure of our world, who's really going to hold the power? Is it going to be the labs that are building these incredibly intelligent models? Or will it be the nations and the companies that are building the smartest grids to actually run them? That's the central tension that's going to define everything in the next chapter of AI.